Commission as well as the Department of Planning and Development. And what this does is it will help to anything that comes to the city in terms of projects or plans or commissions, things like that for the neighborhood. It will, I don't want to say force them, but allow them to take our plan into consideration when looking at those developments. So things like TOD or cultural art installations, let's say, or things for the park. This plan would be a component of those decisions. So it would further give the residents who participate in this, you guys, us, more of a voice in those decision process. Even if they don't reach out to us directly for those things, we're still kind of looming in the background here, like, hey, don't forget about us. We've got this plan out here that we worked 2 years on to improve the neighborhood through various efforts and things like that. So that process has just begun, I think yesterday, today. So we'll keep you guys further informed on that. So it's a really exciting piece that we're looking forward to having for the plan. Speaking of the plan, part of that was centered around TOD and what that means for the neighborhood as far as new developments around places like the 35th Street and Archer Orange Line stop, or the Ashland stop, or the Western Avenue or Ashland Avenue bus routes. If you'll indulge me for a second here, I will share my screen and kind of remind everybody what the TOD zone for the neighborhood was. So if everyone can see that, I think, right? My map? Okay. So just to kind of remind folks, we're only about 1 square mile, and a good portion of the community is within that TOD designation. So like I was saying, Western Avenue here, Ashland Avenue here, and then the 2 stops at the Orange Line. So it's a good portion of the neighborhood. Not a lot of it can be developed from scratch, so from vacant land. There are a couple sites still, but a lot of it does fall into the PMD or the CMD, which some of those buildings are vacant, so that they can be changed around and incorporated into a TOD plan. So that's certainly helpful and something to consider with that. So with that in mind, our very own Liz Gress, she took it upon herself to spearhead the TOD committee for us. So I'm going to let Liz take it from here. I'm going to stop sharing. If you want me to share, Liz, again, let me know. But I'm going to let Liz talk about what the committee's doing and sort of their latest endeavors. So go ahead, Liz.
And we've got a few of us on the call.
Yeah.
Mark, Mike, Kate, I see you. So fill in anything I forget. But we did our first meeting a week or so ago, and spent most of the time just getting ourselves kind of diving into the neighborhood plan and getting kind of ourselves more oriented to what came out of the work we did with the community. What was it that people lifted as priorities, and what sort of the work plan around that could be. And then we really focused on talking about sort of 2 parts of the TOD, ETOD zone in the neighborhood. One being the 35th and Archer Orange Line station and the sort of property around that as a place for getting some equitable TOD development happening. And then we also talked about the Ashland corridor, especially because we're seeing so much of the the last mile distribution going up on one side, on the east side of Ashland. And so coming out of the meeting, there's kind of a couple of focuses that we wanted to take or are taking. One is that we actually have gotten some financial support to do some kind of visual preference work or rendering work, where we can do community engagement around like around a set of images and having people really imagine what they want the two areas to look like and being able to kind of draw up a vision. So there's that work that we're doing. And then the other kind of piece that we're doing, particularly around 35th and Archer, is sort of one for the owners that have, for the parcels that are not developed now, that are empty, getting reaching out to those owners to have meetings with them around what the neighborhood plan is, and getting a sense of where they're at in their openness to following what the vision of the community is. And then two, around the Dunkin' Donuts, which is not sort of doesn't really fit with the neighborhood plan that we had. There's a permit that's still pending for the Dunkin' Donuts around how they're going to set up their driveway there to make it friendly for a drive-through service. And so we are we're going to plan to reach out to the city to meet with with the city around our concerns on that happening, and real concerns about traffic and safety included in sort of what our vision is of what would be there. So we're going to start making those moves, and we may also sort of move a petition around that, because we've seen that generally there's not support for it going in there. And so whatever we can demonstrate to the city that this is not part of our vision is the plan. So that's where we're at now. Any and all are welcome to the committee to do the work. Did I miss anything, Martha, Mike, Kate?
Two things, because like I saw some exchanges this week with some confusion about the Dunkin' Donuts. So just to be clear, there's more than one issue here. There's the fact that a Dunkin' Donuts there at all doesn't fit with the neighborhood plan. They own it, they can put what they want there to a point. That's actually the lesser issue. The reason we are we're upset about losing the possibility for housing on that lot, but we're really, really upset about what the traffic pattern is going to mean for the L, because the proposal from the developer will actually put cars turning left, right where the bus is turning left onto Levitt, trying to get back out to Archer, exactly where the bus is turning into the orange line. Which is just going to gum everything up, and that's a huge safety concern. So like, even more than we object to the Dunkin' Donuts, we especially object to the drive-through at all. And the existing Dunkin' Donuts in the L station is owned by the same guy. So it's not like it's a new location or they're replacing something, they're moving across the street. So there's a lot. So just for those of you who haven't been up to date on all of that, I think that was the biggest thing I saw this week. Do we have any more word this week about those permits?
One of our, Carrie, who's on the committee, has done a little started to ask around about that.
Okay.
And then John, have we reached out to the alderman's office, to Liliana, to see?
Yeah, I reached out to him. I have not heard anything back in terms of who specifically is involved with the driveway permits, but I can definitely reach out to them again and find out and make sure that those concerns are addressed for at least a very to make it a safer intersection than what it looks like it's going to be.
Yeah. I almost wonder, like, and I say this because I'm not home to be part of it, so realizing that I would be volunteering other people if a good old-fashioned protest might not be in order, just to draw attention to the issue, but this developer doesn't seem to care much.
No, but I think the best we can do now is work with them to make the best of the situation. I certainly welcome business to the neighborhood as much as the next guy, but I would ideally want to see it kind of done in the safest, best interest way of the neighborhood at the very least.
Yeah, no, I think our kind of moves are with the city around the drive-through permit, because that's really what the owner is banking on, is that being a very profitable site for a drive-through, not walk-up traffic, which was what our plan actually is about, is walkability and bikeability. But so to the degree that we can try to keep that from happening, it's helpful.
Okay. And Liz, one other thing, did you have any luck in getting contact information for the owner of those other parcels so we can connect with them?
Yeah, I'll follow back. So I followed up with the Montessori school who's been in contact with those owners. They said they were going to check, and so I'll follow back up.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Thanks for the update, Liz. All right, so moving right along. So another piece that we're sort of working towards and kind of wanting to and feel this could positively impact the neighborhood is the city's latest they're calling it a challenge. It's the City Works Community Challenge. And I'm going to pull up the website here. I can share my screen again. It's this one here. This the homepage here. So what this is so the mayor's office has issued this community challenge for the city's broken up into 7 planning districts. So we're part of the southwest side, and there's a $10 million pot available for the whole city, which would provide about $1.5 million, up to $1.5 million for any of the 7 planning zones. You don't necessarily get that whole pot, but if your plan is that you propose is big enough, maybe you could. So what this centers on is how to improve city-owned properties, whether they're vacant land that's zoned for residential, for example, or it would also be for improving things like the park or libraries or schools or any combination of those things. And so right here, residential zone, vacant lots, and there's actually a directory of all the city-owned properties in the area. But it can be facilities as well. So think buildings or other infrastructure that exists that's owned by the city. So looking at the map here, here's our neighborhood, which goes Stevenson, Bubbly Creek, 39th Street, and then kind of jogs a little bit around Western Avenue here. There's about 44 sites, give or take, that are owned by the city. Some of them are CTA, so really can't do a whole lot there. So that gets rid of a couple. But things like the school or our namesake park here, but also things like Mulberry Park or the Kuczynski Murphy Park, for example. Those are also owned by the city and potentially up for improvements. And then as well as a couple sites in the PMD over here, just in the 11th Ward, and then several sites down here along Pershing Avenue. Specifically, there's 3 properties at the end on the last 3 buildings, and the clock tower actually is owned by the city, that can be improved as well. So what I want to issue to you folks out there in McKinley Parkland is that the deadline for proposals is August 30th, so a little more than a month. So if you guys have an idea based on just it can be whatever. If you guys have an idea for a vacant parcel that's owned by the city, or a building, or it's something you want to see improved, please submit it to us, and we can work with you and kind of help massage that into a good proposal, and maybe we can get some funding to kind of go with it. I put this announcement in our email that went out to our email list over the weekend. We've already got one submittal from our very own Dana Calderon. She was heavily involved with us in the beginning of the formation of the council. She's done things like MPAC, so she was involved with the development of the farmers market. So she's a very involved and gregarious person, and we love her for that. She submitted a proposal for making the ice rink at the McKinley Park here into a year-round rink. So things like skating and skateboarding, inline skating. Think of a roller rink. So like I'm going to reach out to her and see if we can develop that into an actual good proposal. But there's also in that same vein, and thinking about skate parks from before, there's a site on 35th Street here, and you guys may or may not know this site. It's at 1644 West 35th Street. It is a vacant piece of land. It is currently owned by the city and full of skate park stuff. So half pipes and ramps and grind rails and things like that. So I know there was discussion about 6 months ago about actually making that a skate park. If somebody has a proposal for that, I'm putting it out there. Please, we'll work with you guys. And if the community wants it, maybe we can make it an actual official skate park in the city. I think that'd be really cool. You know, I don't skateboard myself. I have really poor balance, but lots of people do it. I see kids there at least once a week, you know, out there. So I think it'd be really cool. So if anyone wants to take that up, you know, by all means, let us know, and we're happy to work with you guys. Other things that sort of stuck out to me on this proposal were these 3 buildings in the CMD that were originally for the C40 competition. I think it was 2 years ago, that was directed by the city, about how to redevelop those large a couple city-owned large warehouses in the CMD, and how that can be improved. I don't know that, you know, maybe we can come up with something, but if we go here, the city is actually still thinking about these sites, and has issued a new challenge for this location. So those last 3 buildings on the corner there, plus the small streets and sand department building, as well as the clock tower. And they put a call out a few months ago to worldwide to a bunch of students to help improve that site and kind of come up with these grandiose plans about, you know, whether they're you know, kind of whatever they think would be best in line with the city's ideas of, you know, green infrastructure and you know, renewable resources and housing and, you know, business and all kinds of stuff like that. So the city is still thinking about these sites. They should have a winner, I think, in September. I don't know when in September, but there should be an announcement in September about this site. So we'll keep you guys posted once we know more about this. But this is on the C40 website, and you can Google it and kind of look at it. It's actually, you know, some of the proposals I'm sure are grand and over the top, and exactly what these buildings need. You know, that would really help the neighborhood here. So that's kind of all I really had for today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. But if anyone wants to, you know, have any concerns that they want to raise, or things they want to talk about that you know, you want our help with kind of figuring out the answer to, please speak up now. You know, raise your hand, and we're happy to talk. So yeah, go ahead, Latham.
Hey, yeah, well, we made a proposal and can present it to you right now if you'd like. So we have a pitch based on the Chicago Works Community Challenge. So Caroline, you want to do it with me? Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna share. If you're gonna share the screen, I have to make you a co-host.
Oh yes, please do.
I think I just made you a co-host.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
This is exciting.
It is exciting. The whole meeting's been exciting.
1 second. Okay. Cool. Well, first off, I'm Latham. I use he and they pronouns. I live in McKinley Park. I'm part of the mutual aid group with Caroline and Liz, and many others. You know, have been kind of paying attention to the work that you all do. And obviously we've been talking about overlaps a lot, and was really excited to see you all opening up the space to talk about the Chicago Works Community Challenge, because it's been kind of on my mind, but feels like a heavy lift. And also, you know, it should be a community process to apply for those things anyway. So I had been talking with my collaborators in the mutual aid group about a proposal when I got your email. So it all like kind of happened in the right moment. And so Caroline and I worked on this, and we'll take you through it. So this is our pitch for a McKinley Park mutual aid garden. Caroline, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So if you're not familiar already with McKinley Park Mutual Aid, it's a pretty small group, so we won't spend too much time talking about us, but we formed in March of 2020. We're all McKinley Park neighbors or close by neighbors, and it's a really cool kind of grassroots, non-hierarchical, multiracial mutual aid network. Great group to be involved in. And we have been fundraising for people in the community and redistributed over $14,000 in direct aid to our neighbors in various different ways, and done a lot of different kind of activities. And you can follow us on social media at McKinley Park Mutual Aid, where you can find, our Venmo for donations and just everything that we're about and doing. And yeah, we'd love to get to know all of you more if you don't already know who we are. So I'll take this slide too. We started a community garden in May of 2021. So we already kind of have like a foundation and a knowledge that we can do this. Unfortunately, it's currently on privately owned land that has been sold. And so we won't have access to the space pretty soon. So we're looking for a permanent location.
And so we've narrowed it down to 2 spots, although I think we're open if like maybe I know there are other spots on the map that maybe we aren't as familiar with. One of them is, I think you'll all be very familiar with, which is this little slice of land that divides the sort of, I can't remember if that's what Damon is called in this side and what it's called on that side, but the 2 Damons. And this would build off of the existing community garden that's already there. But the way that community garden works, which is a very beautiful, well-tended community garden, it's awesome, but the food is not for the community. Like the land is for people in the community to sort of claim and garden, and there's a lot of collaboration and stuff that happens within it, but it's not really in the same spirit of creating a garden to share the produce in a more open and sort of free-form kind of way. So we thought this would be a great addition to that because it could be in conversation with that garden, but doing something different. And we also are excited about the idea of this space because we would be able to go directly into the earth, which means that there's possibility for long-term soil remediation, which extracts toxins from the ground. As we know, there's a asphalt plant right there, but also their remediated and healthy soil is able to capture carbon. So there's a climate bonus in there if we get to sort of build into for a long term. This is thinking like, in 5-10 years. If we do everything well. And then the second location is on 34th Place, and there's an empty lot owned by the city. It is zoned as industrial, and I'm not sure if it technically is included in the Chicago Works Community Challenge, although it's clearly, I think, begging for something to happen there, as you can see. But it's not it's not a library, a school, or a park, but it is owned by the city. And this is not as central as the other location, but it is also not used in any way, right? So the only purpose that this lot really holds is people sometimes park their cars on it. So it's pretty open. And this would obviously look a bit different because we would be building above ground in, say, boxes or things like that. However, with the putting together of a budget, it could also be explored what it would mean to, say, create holes in the concrete that could be filled, and maybe to have something like an orchard or something like that. So possibilities. Caroline, you want to take it back?
Sure. So the next couple of slides talk about what this would offer our community in our city. So the first is a community space that's just available all the time to people, that would be beautiful and would be fresh and would be a place to rest and gather. And you could have events there, you could have cookouts there, you can go there just like you do the park. It's just an extension of that and provides a different something to look at and something to engage with.
And it would also provide a free produce source, and this is probably the most important part of it. We would want to engage our group of volunteers, expand our volunteers. This would be a volunteer run. As far as we know, it would be a volunteer run. Maybe eventually we would be able to fund a position or something to tend to it. But we'd love to plan the garden democratically with our neighbors. We know there are a lot of communities that are diaspora communities. And so this would be a really exciting opportunity to grow vegetables that are meaningful to people both culturally and historically, and share that.
And then another thing would be like actual, programming, something that, because we have people who can support this space and kind of come up with this, put the work in for programming. Some of the ideas that we're already kind of starting to float are shared harvest, like potluck kind of style dinners with the produce that's grown there, and all kinds of arts, readings, performances, sculptures if it's allowed, and workshops of the sort. So there's just like, I think, an endless possibility around. We already know that food is something that brings people together, and gardening is something that brings people together. And there's just so much like possibility there, and just those kind of two elements of shared human experience. So yeah.
Yeah, and then I think the last thing that we were really excited about, coming back to the point, partially to the point I was making, is that gardening is intending to plants is this really soulful activity that is a skill that is passed down from generation to generation. There are different ideas and methods and little bits of knowledge that this would create an opportunity to kind of share all of that. So also thinking about the maybe tangentially, but also in some ways very directly, like how about cultural heritage, about what plants are grown there. Maybe they're medicinal plants or plants that are used in a particular type of cooking. And then also thinking about this as a gathering space for neighbors to connect and share knowledge about the neighborhood. And of course, to get to know one another. So that is our proposal. And yeah, would love to hear any thoughts or questions you have.
Very, very cool. I'm glad you guys thought about the existing garden and kind of how to mesh with those guys. So does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. So kind of looking at so I really like the idea of like where you're headed with this. I think it's cool and it offers a lot of possibility. I actually think that you have more of those possibilities on a vacant lot where you get a blank slate. And I say that, partly because you get a blank slate, you're also taking up a lot where they're not going to put another industrial polluter. And there's some talk of remerging Damon, and you could lose the garden again. But I was wondering, is that the only lot that you were able to find in the neighborhood that you think would be suitable that's owned by the city?
Well, I don't think we've done like an extensive search. This is just sort of what is on our mind that we know.
Yeah.
But would certainly be open to another location for sure. If there's another sort of, I think ideally we could plant into the ground. I think that's the best for gardening. And I think in terms of the long-term benefits, I think it's also allows us to think about more what is the word I'm looking for, regenerative, like a kind of a regenerative practice that can that can eventually remediate soil, capture carbon, those kinds of things, while also producing food. And so that would be great, because then we'd also be leaving it in better shape than when we found it.
Yeah, well, because I was kind of thinking, like, for 1.5 million, surely you could bust up that concrete and actually do that. I mean, that's probably where most of the money would go. But like, if you've got a space like that, you could also attract private money. I'm sure Home Depot would help us out. We could get dirt, we could get stuff. And then that's something that could grow over time. Like maybe eventually you could have a pavilion for these potlucks you want to have, or something like that, Anyway, just 2 cents. Yeah, I really like the idea of doing it on a vacant lot, especially if it was something that's zoned where they'd otherwise put something we don't want.
Cool. Well, I mean, definitely open to suggestions. We'll take some time to look at the map again and see what is out there. Yeah, and I also, just to your point about money, I think this proposal wouldn't need any even a significant amount of the 1.5 million. It really just needs the land and a little bit of startup. And I think we've been very crafty with this garden. We have basically done it all on a dime. And all the things that we have bought would carry over to a new location. I think there are some like tricky things like water, like how do we get water? Do we need like electricity if there's gas and we have a mower? Like how do we get that? So there's some things to think about, but I think those could be included in the proposal.
Yeah, very, very cool. I know you guys said the land is vacant land is zoned industrial, right? Okay. I know I know the proposals are for residentially zoned, but I would suspect we could weasel in a zoning change in there in the proposal at some point, and it shouldn't be that hard to do, I don't think. So I personally think you guys should run with it. I think it'd be great. I'm more than willing to help out, and I'm sure the rest of my McKinley Park team is willing to help you guys, formulate this into a proposal, and maybe we can, merge it with other plans that come in. If it's not if they're expensive, we can do multiple sites for $1.5 million, maybe. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
So, well, I have a comment. I'm part of the community garden.
Okay.
Which I love. That's like, I just love it. But I just thought that you might want to be aware that there has been throughout an ongoing problem of people helping themselves to the produce, and so you might want to talk to, I can't think of his last name, but Nicholas, who runs the community garden, and he might have some insight for you in terms of how it's gone with the garden itself, versus, in terms of what you're talking about going forward. Because it's a really nice idea. But I just, worry that harvest might not be as rich as you're expecting. And maybe it's fine if people take stuff, because that's the whole point. But just note that that's an issue.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Any other initial hot take proposals or comments that anyone wants to share?
I like between that proposal, this proposal, Dana's thinking on the sort of roller rink, which is awesome. There is, to me, there is kind of a gelling of how do you actually, the park is amazing, and then there can be ways to make it even more of sort of a heart of the neighborhood. And I don't know whether it would fit within this proposal, but I would be down for also sort of trying to write into this proposal that we do want to kind of do this thing of merging the park and, and having Damon sort of put together to be a two-way. That might be a little bit past what this budget allows, but yeah.
Yeah.
I want to chime in.
Go ahead, John.
Is the proposal, does it have any restrictions on how many lots that you can get? What would be wrong with doing
Yeah.
Trying to get all the lots, that way there's no building put up there, right? And then we use it for ourselves, and different parts of our community have these gardens all over. And we start reusing these empty lots rather than building big stuff on there. You know what I mean? It's kind of that development idea that we have as a council, that we love our neighborhood and we like development, but in the end, we don't want it to go out of hand where it becomes too crowded here, or the prices go too up and it's unaffordable for the people that would actually be using those gardens.
Yeah, I didn't see a limit on how many proposals you can submit or how many properties you can, propose to redevelop. So I don't think there's a limit, actually. I think the limit is the dollars.
Yeah, that's how I would interpret it too. Just, yeah, I feel like the spirit of the project seems to be to empower people to kind of take some ownership over the public spaces that are in their communities, and that the money is there because some of that probably can't happen without it. But I think my guess is that, I mean, we wouldn't want to do something that seems like we couldn't handle, right? So I don't know if we would say every vacant lot, but maybe there's like a campus or something like that. Joanne, did you want to add something?
Yeah, so only 7 projects are going to win funding, 1 per planning district. But on the website, it says that all kind of like valid proposals will be considered for the 5-year capital plan. So there is that limitation. But I think we can apply for as many as we.
Yeah,
ideas
totally.
Well, different question entirely. What was the selling price of that? Like, wasn't it 4 lots, 4 industrial zone lots that went up for sale on Western?
I think it was $1 million.
If we had something like that was community owned, and we could, like, I mean, obviously we couldn't do that and start a co-op with that budget, but really thinking ahead, because it's not necessarily that we want to buy up every lot so nobody can build on it. We just want the building to be affordable housing, you know, for real people.
Mm-hmm.
And not more polluters. I don't know how you could, there's got to be something in there somewhere, but it's not coming to me off the top of my head, you know.
We got a month to think about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think like affordable housing and a community garden don't have to be separate proposals.
Oh, right? Not at all. But I was just thinking about if we could just start by getting the lot, but we have to have a justification why we want the lot and what we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. All right. If there's no other comments, I want to remind folks that if you think of something at a later date, please email us, Facebook us, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, all that stuff. Please let us know. We're happy to listen to the pitch, listen, try to work with you guys to, develop into a good, solid plan that has the potential of actually winning. If you want more information, there's the Chicago Works Community Challenge website, which is down here at the bottom. If you don't want to copy this whole thing, you can just Google, Chicago Works Community Challenge. It comes right up, gives you the map, gives you the parameters. It's all kinds of good, fun stuff there. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Yeah, thanks everybody. If you want to stick around.